Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Siddhartha in a Car. And I have an unexpected, totally improvised show for you this morning. I literally just met Nancy Giuliani in the parking lot of the Embarcadero Hotel where I'm staying for a few days, and we had an amazing conversation. And I wanted to share some of the things that we had talked about education, about higher education, about is it necessary to go to college to be successful? Have we been sold a bill of goods about that, or is there more to it than that? And I'm very interested in interviewing Nancy about that from a teacher's perspective. She has spent basically most of her adult life as a teacher. In fact, I'm still getting to know her, so I'm going to go ahead and include some of those questions that we didn't cover yesterday for you all, so we can get to know Nancy a little bit better right now. So Nancy, welcome to our show.
Good morning, Donn.
So the first thing I'd like to ask you is, how long have you been teaching, and what inspired you to get into teaching?
Well, first of all, how long? It's probably a total of 36 years over whatever. What got me into teaching is I graduated from high school in 1961. You do the math.
Yeah.
And at that time, the fields open to women were really limited. And the way I was brought up very, very strictly. And so I didn't have the self whatever confidence to really go into journalism at that time, really pursue a newspaper career. And also just thinking back about the teachers that I had that I really admired and why I admired them. So I started out at the University of Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, and folks, my tuition at the time in 1962 was 180 for the in-state, 250 for the out-of-state, and could live on campus, yada, yada. Well, 3 years later, I was crossing campus, and it was 20 degrees below zero, and thought, what am I doing here? So I moved back home and finished up at Oregon State. I've done other things. I think I told you, Don, I've been a newspaper reporter, convention coordinator, researcher, all kinds of things, but I always went back to teaching because watching kids grow and bloom and responding, kids coming back and say, thank you. But I will tell you, I was a very strict teacher as well. My last 2 years of teaching, the principal said that I was too strict. And I said, I've got 55 kids per class period. I have to be strict.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've answered my second question. What is the most rewarding thing that you found in your 36 years teaching kids? And it sounds to me like it's that what I've heard from so many teachers. I teach, music and community college. It's that same thing of thank you. You watching them grow and watching them accomplish what they want to accomplish in life, and knowing that you were the foundation for that. Would you say that's true in your case?
Yes, and I will also share with you, there are kids that they're in high school and they have low self-esteem and they don't think they're going anywhere. And then to run into them later and then I say, thank you, you were always there for me. Mm-hmm. That's so important.
Yeah. I've heard my sister, 35 years from my sister, say exactly the same thing. She ran into a student not too long ago that she hasn't seen in 20 years that was in one of her second grade classes, and thanked her for what she did for her, and it's got to be one of the most rewarding feelings in the world. So
don't go into teaching if you want to earn a great deal of money.
Well, it's not about, exactly. Like so many things, it's not about the money. But I want to reiterate that my fourth grade teacher said I would never forget her. She said, you'll never forget the teacher that taught you multiplication tables. But that was very important. But why I remember her, she went beyond the call of duty. I remember she invited us to her home on several weekends. And she had horses. And for a fourth grade kid, that was awesome. Wow. And so we got to feed the horses and we got to go to her house. And that was the only teacher that ever did that. So, yeah, I definitely, Mrs. Frankel, I will never forget her. And she was strict too, but she was really sweet deep down. You knew that she was being strict because she wanted you to succeed. And I will never forget her. I'm going to cry.
And by the way, I used to take my publication staffs on snipe hunts, if you know what those are.
No. What's a sniper?
A snipe hunt. Okay.
Hang on, I'm going to grab a water. Here. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would wait till the school year began and it'd be warm. Now you have to remember there would be a group of boys that I would approach ahead of time. And I would go over by the windows and I'd sniff. Yep. Yep. What's that, Miss G? It's snipe weather.
Night weather.
You guys know that we got to raise some money to pay for the publications. Now there are snipes, like little birds with the 2 to 3 inch
All right.
that run along in sandy marshes. And so the guys would be going, yeah, let's go do that. And I go, well, what are we getting for snipes now this day? And I go, well, for those brown ones, I think it's 500, but for those rare white ones, it's 1,000. So we would talk about it and go, hey, anybody else want to go? And some kids would say yes, and some would say no. So given the time, we'd load up the cars, take them out to Multnomah Falls, take them to the top, and it would be dusk. Make sure they had flashlights, pots and pans, something to bang with, and a sack to put the snipe in. And then we would leave, and teacher would say, Iaki. So then this group of boys and I would kind of leave and go to town and get a pizza. Then we figured, well, they've had enough, come back and get them. And then we take them back into town for a pizza. And the kids that didn't go always were kind of angry with themselves.
Yeah, regretted it.
Could I do that now? Oh my God, no, I'd be in jail.
Yeah. Well, it's that same idea I was just talking about. You know, you're showing them that you're a human being besides just being a teacher, and almost like a mentor too. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Well, that kind of leads into my third question here, and we're going to talk about this too. I think I'm going to swing back to this because it's included in what we're going to talk about. So, you know, there is the thinking out there, the predominant thinking that in order to succeed in life, you need to go to college, you need to get a good, solid education, and that's how you succeed. And I didn't go that route. In fact, I dropped out of college, and I think I told you this in the parking lot yesterday, all over a love affair. I went to college, but that very summer before I went to college, my girlfriend had moved across the country to Rhode Island. So even though I took maximum units, I loaded myself down with lots of work to do to distract me, it didn't work. All I wanted to do was call her and be with her, and I couldn't focus. So I did. I literally crossed the country, and that's a whole story, a whole show in itself that I'm not going to get into. But it started me traveling, and I traveled for 2 years with no money, hitchhiking across the country, and my joke is that my gap year became a gap decade. Actually, it became a gap 3 decades. I took 3 decades as a gap year because I was so enamored with the travel, and I learned so much. I learned so much about myself. I faced a lot of fears. I was by myself. I didn't have money. And I remember in 2 years only sleeping outside in my sleeping bag out of necessity one time. Every day things were provided for me. And that's where I learned kind of a spiritual lesson that, wow, you know, when you just relax and let life happen, it always works out. I stayed at college dorms. People invited me to their home. I mean, it was just amazing. You know, I had my guitar with me. I'd stop and play for tips somewhere. So it worked out. And then later on in life, I learned I forgot how to carry that through, and I won't get into that story. That's another show, but I got married and I got divorced 6 years later because I kind of put that whole thinking on hold, you know, and I forced it and I pushed it, you know, and I got a job and I worked hard. But all I ever got from that was mediocrity. So where I am now is kind of back to that, just letting it flow, letting it happen organically, and it always works out better, and I'm always healthier and happier. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that because there is that thought. I was in a restaurant where was I? I was in California, and I was eavesdropping on a conversation next to me, and I think it was a dad or a granddad talking to his kid about how he's got to do it and how he's got to buckle down and how he's got to focus and all these things. And there was this fear-based thing that if you don't do these things, it's not going to work for you. You're not going to succeed. And yeah, it's like, no. And my life, I've shown it, it's just not true. And then we were talking in the parking lot about so many mega successes in this world who didn't go to college. I mean, Richard Branson and Mark Zuckerberg. And I heard even Tom Cruise was dyslexic. He couldn't even study and barely read. And the Beatles, the Beatles didn't go to school. And all these people that had this passion to do something else. And the passion is what made them succeed. So I just want to get your comments on that as a teacher of 36 years in the education system, encouraging and motivating kids. What's your take on that?
Well, I totally agree with you because people have different learning styles, and we talked about putting square pegs in round holes.
Yeah.
My whole thing is kids over the years, I'm sure some of their parents could have choked me, but I would say, find out what your passion is. Do not take a job. Don't just settle. And I don't care. Don't just settle for another human being, but get your passion. And to travel, go see the world before you settle down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that some people, okay, there are some women that are just destined to be mommies and have that whole thing. And I wanted to travel, and which I have done some, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try new things. It's okay. And if it doesn't work out, so what? Move on. And remember that old Doris Day song, "Que Sera, Sera"?
Yeah, exactly.
And see where your life takes you. And what's really neat, like I talked about kids coming back and finding out that they have become successful. One of the stories I have is there's a kid I had in class, wasn't overly bright, but he went off to Eastern Oregon, went to work for a mill. His job was to watch the gauges, excuse me. He earned more in a year watching those gauges than I did with a master's degree plus $1.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Really kicked me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was happy,
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a documentary I think it's just called Happy, where they go around the world interviewing people. And one of the happiest people they found was a rickshaw driver in India who literally lived on a mat with his family, and they cooked, in one room and everything. But he was so happy, he had purpose and he had family, and it's just amazing. So yeah, you answered my third question. My question is, what would you pass on to young people? Let's say you're working with seniors and they're about ready to make that leap. What would you say to them? And you said it, and that's brilliant, because I recently right at the beginning of COVID, I started mentoring at Forest Grove High School, and I had 4 mentorees. But what they wanted me to do is to prepare them for college, to start to talk to them about college and what they wanted. And of course, I couldn't do that, and they didn't know what I was talking about. But I was what you were doing. I was asking them what they really wanted to do and what their passion was. And one guy, for example, wanted to be a professional football player, and I was just telling them, they require that you do X, Y, Z, so just do it. And I get it. That's not your passion, but that's what they're requiring. But let's just do that. And another one, I was encouraging to travel. All the things you were saying, because it's so important. College isn't for everybody. I told my own child that if it's not for you, it's not for you. And if it is for you, I'll support you 1,000%. But it has to be a choice that you make. And as you said, I believe it needs to come from passion. Passion drives it all. So that's brilliant. This is great. This is exactly what I wanted to hear from a teacher, because it's not always about higher education. And what is the definition of higher education? I believe it's a balance between self-knowledge and the outer knowledge. You have to know yourself to have complete balance. So this is wonderful. What do you have coming up? I mean, I realize you're pretty much retired from education, but what projects are you involved in now that you'd like to share?
Well, okay, though I retired from teaching, I'm on the Oregon Education Association Retired Teachers Board of Directors. At the local level, there's a Teachers Association and the local Education Association. Then over that, it's what's called a UNISERV. And it depends on the population of your area to which UNISERV a school district will belong. I'm part of Shintimony. We have Benton County, Lincoln County, and parts of Marion and Polk. Been on that for umpteen years. And then I also, okay, and I keep active in OA, and there's just different responsibilities that I have that I fulfill. I'm also a member of the philanthropic educational organization, or PEO, for women, and we raise scholarship monies for women who want to go back to school.
Oh, cool.
The chapter I belong to does extremely well. And also I'm their historian, and that takes into account. And also at times, believe it or not, I still judge high school newspapers and yearbooks.
Wow, you're a busy lady. You are a busy lady.
And I told you, I keep going to Zoom meetings. I'll be so glad when we can go to virtual meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is great. And yeah, like so many people I know, my sister, as I mentioned before, is busier now, but working on her fourth book than she was teaching and still subbing too, you know, so that's amazing. Well, this has been great. I really think we accomplished what I felt we wanted to accomplish, and just let kids know, even their parents know, that, you know, passion is the way, and it does work out. And I have known too many people that did the round hole in the square peg or vice versa, and weren't happy. I recently had a friend of mine share with me that he's been an attorney for, God, almost 50 years, and he never liked it. So, oh my God, wait a minute, you know?
And I think I also shared with you that I'm happy to see more and more schools are getting trades back into the school.
Yes. And you spoke of journals. I had a girlfriend who was trained a journalist in Germany, but she told me, you know, when you graduate, you know, from with their version of high school, you have an apprenticeship before you go to the university. You know, and you try it on. It's like a fitting room, and you try it on, and you see if this is what you want, and you mentor with people. Then you go on to the university and study if that's what you want. So, you know, some things our country could learn for sure from the old country.
Yes.
From the old country, apprenticeship, you know, mentoring. Well, this has been great, Nancy. I really appreciate it. So let's go out in the parking lot and talk later this afternoon or something. I'm going to be leaving soon.
And with my naturally curly hair. No.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm glad you had a chance to meet this incredible woman, and who's making a major contribution on our planet. So thank you very much, Nancy. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and see you next time. See you on the road. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thanks for joining in, everyone. If you'd like to stay in touch and updated about future programs and events, please check out my website and leave your email address. If you'd like to support this program, my music, workshops, and other events, see the link below and check out the benefits you'll receive by becoming a patron. Meanwhile, I wish you maximum creativity, power, and love. See you next time.